Lynn, as any large rural county with fiscal challenges, with the state of the economy of the entire world and the country, and certainly our county these days, we have issues when it comes to our graded roads, our dirt roads, our non-paved roads. It's kind of like the weather. Everybody loves to gripe about the condition of their road,
Yeah.
and everybody thinks that their road is not getting their due diligence and the attention that they deserve. I know from our conversations and our interaction with the county that there is a plan in place and that those operations are taking place on a regular basis and that everything is being done that can be done. When we have these kinds of weather events, all bets are off. Because if they have an inordinate amount of rain in a specific part of the county that impacts those roads, then they're going to get the attention because obviously emergency access comes first. What are you seeing around the county right now? What are some of the most heavily impacted areas as far as damage and closings of dirt roads?
Typically we see in this kind of event, we would see a lot of impacts on the creeks, streams, rivers, or river. That's kind of where you see the biggest impacts. With this, what we're seeing is that a lot of and a lot of this is because of what began to occur last July. We've not had just a typical rain since last July. Anytime we get rain, it's a lot of rain. But what we're seeing with this event is a lot of our ponds, a lot of our, just any body of water is overflowing. Our ground is so saturated. Any area with water is being impacted. Washington County, of course, is known for its beautiful bodies of water, the lakes, the river, the creek. That's what we're known for, fishing and recreational swimming and that kind of thing. Beautiful area. We have springs. But in this case, with all the weather conditions that we've had, we're just seeing impacts throughout the county, even on the east side of the county, where typically they would not be impacted as heavily. So it's pretty much through, and like you said, our dirt roads are really being impacted. Bridges, different things like that. The conditions are very dangerous. We've had equipment on roads that were there to try to make some repairs, and the equipment bogged down and went into holes. Culverts, pipes are being undermined. And so it's just a very dangerous situation, and that's part of the reason that our school officials have made the decisions that they've made to keep their buses off the roads and keep the children, out of a dangerous situation because of the heavy buses.
Yeah, and a couple of things come to mind. Number one, last year in conversation with Tommy Barfield, the district secretary for the Department of Transportation, he said something that I keep repeating, and that's when you're full, you're full. And we were talking about the Blue Lake situation with the closure of 77 there for the better part of 3 weeks. But when that area is full of water, there's nothing that you can do. Now, he points out that the rerouting of traffic by that four-laning of 77, which I think is maybe even partially funded at this point, hopefully to come soon, is going to take care of a lot of that. They're going to mitigate a lot of those outfall problem areas and be able to divert some of that water. But right now, when Blue Lake is full, all they can do is pump it more quickly than what it naturally drains to that county outfall to the south. Have you had conversation about that area recently with any emergency operations people or the DOT?
We have been in contact with DOT. They're very proactive in talking with us, and of course there are the state is aware, our DEM is aware that that was an issue for us last year. We do understand that the situation is, like Mr. Barfield said, there's nowhere for that water to go, and so we're just depending on them to do what they are doing, and being aggressive in addressing that issue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's no finger pointing. This is an act of God. This is nature. Somebody said the other day to me that if this global warming keeps up, we're all going to freeze to death. But we have seen some huge weather pattern changes. I know that you go to state and regional conferences. What's the prevailing thought now? Do we think that all of these very extreme weather events that we're seeing are caused by natural occurrences? Or, and I don't want to get into a long, protracted discussion about it, but what's the prevailing thought right now?
There are some concerns, of course, with the weather changes. It's funny you'd mention that. The other day I was talking with someone here in the office that indicated he had lunch in a local restaurant, and he heard an older gentleman say, I looked at the almanac, and it's going to be another bad year. And based on that, and knowing the wisdom of age as I'm getting older, certainly I think the trend is to expect these kind of unusual events, at least for the next year.
Well, weather is cyclical. We can look back to as far back as weather has been recorded and see that there are trends, that there are cycles. At the end of the day, everybody complains about the weather and nobody can do anything about it. What I'd really like to talk about for a moment is the school closings.
Okay.
How does that mechanism work? Who actually makes that call, and what is the process to determine if that indeed is the best course of action?
Okay. That is the superintendent of schools' call. And I can tell you what occurred this time is Thursday morning when we got the call that there was some wind damage and trees down, power lines down throughout the county. We got that call about 3 o'clock in the morning, and immediately by 3:30 we had talked with our transportation director with the schools, and he was in contact with our superintendent, and by 5 o'clock he had made a decision that roads were not safe, buses weren't traveling on them. So that decision was made for Wednesday. Then Thursday, we continued to stay in contact with him. His office, his staff is made aware of road closures, road conditions on a regular basis. We're in constant contact with his office, and he makes, the decisions daily based on the conditions that we're providing to him. And of course, the weather situation, what kind of rain we're expecting, will determine what kind of repairs, emergency repairs, can be done. And but typically, always the way that those decisions are made, he gets updates from our office. And yesterday afternoon, we had the superintendent and transportation director and public works supervisors here in the office, and they sat around and discussed the most critical areas, and a decision was made to close schools again. Now this weekend we expect to have much drier air and sunny skies, and we're trusting that as crews are able to get out and do some emergency repairs, that the situation will get better. The transportation director with schools, Mike Park, will be assessing the roads on Sunday afternoon and report to Mr. Taylor, who also will be assessing roads, Superintendent Taylor, and they'll determine, hopefully, that buses can run again on Monday.
And not to get into the political end of it, but it would be remiss if we didn't point out, at least in our humble opinion, that Mr. Taylor, Mr. Park, everybody in the school district and school board, and the superintendent himself have been doing a great job. Just
Absolutely.
Recently, we found some great news that KMS, the new elementary school, has been funded.
Yes.
And is moving forward, and hats off to all of our legislature folks, and certainly to the diligence of Mr. Taylor and the school board.
Absolutely.
So again, thanks to all those folks. What does the weather look like for the next week? I mean, you probably don't have any better information than anybody else, but I'd like to think that you're keeping your eye on it. Today, it's Friday, May 2nd. What are we looking at over the next several days?
Okay, we talked with the Weather Service this morning, and they do a tremendous job, and we always feel comfortable to call them and just talk candidly. Today, we're looking at a little more rain, maybe a quarter of an inch this morning, and by midday, it's supposed to be, this system finally will be moving out, and we're expecting sunny, dry conditions for about a week, and we're very excited about that.
Chamber of Commerce weather coming up
Absolutely.
on May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, according to Lynne Abel, and you can hold her feet to the fire on that one. And thanks for that forecast. Anything that you'd like to add? Is there anything that, let me back up. You guys have been gracious in including us in all of your news releases, all of your updates as far as road closures. We, along with all the other people who deal with people through publications and media, certainly do what they can to let people know. But is there anything that you would like to offer to those people who are being impacted right now by this weather and the road conditions?
Well, first of all, let me say we do appreciate the outlets that you provide to get the information out. It's very important. We want folks to know that conditions are still not good on our roads, and we would ask that residents be very understanding of our road crew and personnel. It's important that they are not put in dangerous situations.